Waters presents On the Box.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are trying new things here on the Box.
We did.
And you had kind of like a, what is it called?
Like, caught in the headlights. Deer in the headlight.
Yeah.
Yes, ADHD on steroids.
Yes. Attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. It's gonna
That's true.
So what have you been doing this morning?
Oh, all sorts of private things.
Mark, how about you, sir? What have you been doing?
All kinds of private things, I guess. Really.
You guys just going to leave me hanging today. That's great. That's wonderful.
So you nearly injured yourself.
I was working out yesterday.
You have to?
Do I have to?
You have to work out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting old. I mean, I'm not as old as some, but I'm older than others, and I need to work out.
You got to.
And I'm using some exercise bands. And you're supposed to secure the strap for the exercise band on the side of the door. Well, I tried it underneath the door, trying a different angle. And that exercise band, as I'm pulling it back in a seated position, let go. And I'm very thankful that it hit me in the chin.
Yeah. Well, so every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and that's when it's on a band, it comes back really fast.
Yeah.
But you know, it could have broken your jaw.
It could have. And it hit me in
Hell would have rejoiced.
It hit me in the legs, and it was a painful whip. But you know what it made me think after I realized that I wasn't permanently injured? Is that Jesus took 39 lashes for me with a whip affixed with metal or bone or glass.
Yeah.
And that pain that I was in for a moment, you know, when I did something stupid, was nothing compared to what the Lord went through.
We have no idea.
To pay the penalty for my sins.
Sounding very carnal, but what do you do when you're in pain? I tend to dance around the whole house or backyard. I don't stay still when I'm in pain.
Due to the nature of the accident yesterday, I was just curled up in a fetal position.
Oh, I've done that. That's worse than the dance.
I wasn't dancing. I was not dancing.
The fetal position is when I had a kidney stone, I was in a fetal position on the floor, and my dog brought a ball to me and dropped it by my face. And I said, "Not now." Yeah, it was not fun.
Okay. All right. Hey, let's jump right into it. There's a wonderful ministry out there, and those of you who've watched the show for any length of time, we've talked about this ministry before. In fact, we had a couple of their representatives here in the studio and one on the program some time ago. It's Change Collegian Network, CCN. Wonderful college-based ministry, and there's so much out there today that is not good when it comes to on-campus type ministry.
We've seen it up close and personal.
We've seen it up close and personal, yeah, and we saw parts of it yesterday. We'll talk about that. But Tiffany Gelpe leads this ministry, and they just come out with a new video, which is really neat, called Redeem the Time. Yes, sir.
Met Tiffany in New York when we filmed season 2 or something like that, and we're in a restaurant, and I don't think I've ever met anyone so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
She's just a great girl.
Well, Mark and I had opportunity to fellowship. Mark and I?
Okay.
Yeah, both of us had the opportunity to fellowship with her out at the Jersey Fire Conference in July when we went out there, and yeah, really neat young lady, loves the Lord and loves doing evangelism the right way. Take a look at this.
Let's go. Don't waste your life, man.
Give myself away so you can use me. I give myself away.
One thing you're giving away right now is your body. Like, that's your 5th bag.
Yo, man, whatever, yo. When was the last time you shared the gospel? When was the last time you shared your faith with somebody?
Well, you know, I'm saving up money right now to go on a missions trip. So, in 6 months when I go to China, I'll do it there.
Yo, 6 months? Yo, that mission trip is mad long from now. Like, there's a group on campus, they one-on-one witness, they hand out tracts. You know, they even open and preach, like.
Yeah, but that's mad confrontational. Like, Do you really want your roommate, like your friends and everybody, seeing you out there in the quad, open air preaching and handing out tracts? That's not for me. And I heard they don't even do Bible study. They don't do Bible study or prayer. They just evangelize all the time.
Well, first of all, you're misinformed information. They actually do Bible study. They do prayer, worship, apologetics. You know, they teach people how to share their faith, man. It's a holistic ministry. And plus, your friends and your peers, yo, they can die any moment. Aren't you still talking to that guy, Joe?
Yeah, man. It's been like 3 years right now. And I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to share my faith with him.
That's my point. 3 years? Yo, man, we've been sitting around here bumming all day, on the phone, on Facebook, eating sun chips like 18 bags. Y'all say we just get up and go and talk to people right now.
He's too true to chase that ice. Here's my gift.
I got a project next week. You know, I should probably wait. I got it my project.
I guess we'll just go listen another time.
Yeah, we got a whole lot.
All right, Tiffany wanted me to share with everybody.
I like that.
Yo!
Yo!
Yo, yo!
That did something.
With your bad self and all of that. All right, please. Tiffany wanted us.
It was good, Tom.
You like that?
Yeah.
I learned that working the county jail.
You did?
Yeah. Listen to a lot of rap back in the day.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyways, Tiffany wanted me to share that the two young men who were in that video put that video together as a final project for the CCN Summer School of Leadership, which trains up college students to be biblical soul-winning leaders. This is how we keep the students busy and focused during the summer so that they continue to grow before they return to labor on campus. And of course, they stress that their labor in the church is important too, to be a member of the local church. So CCN, ministry that is doing campus-based ministry the right way.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to make you wait just a second longer. Mark, what has your experience been on college campuses with college ministries?
Oh boy.
Good, bad, or ugly?
Indifferent, I would say. But I'll tell you this, that this ministry that Tiffany has going is by and large the best outreach ministry I've ever seen.
Yep.
I mean, whatever I can do to help promote her and what she's doing, I want to say, yeah, let's do it. Let's get behind that. The psalmist said to help us to number our days in our youth, right, so that we may apply them towards wisdom. And when you think about it, our most important asset that we have is slipping away, time, right? It doesn't bow down whether you're a billionaire or whether you're a pauper. It doesn't slow down for anyone, and it doesn't speed up. It's the most valuable asset that we have, and if we don't redeem this, we're going to find ourselves at the end of our lives with nothing to show to our Maker. Mm-hmm. So of all the things that we can do, redeeming the time is the most valuable thing that we can do even right now. If you look in Ephesians 5:16, when it talks about redeeming the time, that word redeem means to buy up, ransom, or rescue from the loss. I like that. Yeah. We need to rescue from the loss. We need to, we want beauty for ashes, and we think of our lives and all that we've done and all the stuff that we can't get back. God's given us an opportunity to redeem the time by simply approaching Him and approaching the world with a message that can change people. So,
amen.
Time doesn't slow down. Haven't you ever listened to a boring sermon? I tell you, taste eternity if you're stuck under a happened to me once.
Once.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not when you were behind the pulpit, but in front of it.
No.
So, Ray, we went out to Cerritos College
We
yesterday.
certainly
Speaking
did.
of, you're bubbling.
We had a good time.
It was a good time.
I'm gonna talk to Anita and say, she's going to email us and say, Wednesday, go.
Oh, Anita.
Regularly. Yeah, I'm going to get Anita.
Our Anita.
To tell us, to remind us.
Oh, put it on the calendar as a permanent thing.
You can get so caught up, in administration stuff that you just forget what it's all about. So, yeah, we had a very good time.
We had a very, very good time.
I learned a few things.
What did you learn, Ray?
I learned that you've got a hot button.
Wait, yeah, well, there's no video of that.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It was great. It was good. I saw some righteous indignation. We saw the whip come out and the temple get cleared and be angry and sin not. It was good.
All right. Well, we're going to have to explain a little bit. Okay. All right. So we were out there for about 2 hours. Great time. We open-aired nonstop. You open-aired, I open-aired, then you open-aired again. We set up the prayer stand, and that was like putting out fly paper for flies. I mean, attracted a lot of wonderful conversations. And had some good hecklers along the way, too.
Lots of good questions, too.
Lots of good questions. That's why we love college campuses, because the kids, you know, there are, of course, the cut and pasters out there, but there are kids who have honest, genuine questions.
And they come with colorful language, and you just got to accept that.
Yeah, yeah. And so we're packing up, and Danny's waiting for us in the parking lot. We're making our way to the parking lot. Young man says, I'd like to talk to you. And Eddie says, all right, well, if you wouldn't mind talking to us while we walk. And the young man began to present his resume to me. You know, I did ministry on my high school campus, and me and a friend, we shared the gospel with 600 people, and we saw 100 people get saved. And then he paused, kind of gave me a little bit of a mad dog. Then he asked me, so how many people do you think got saved here today?
And it was asked in a cynical
Asked in a very cynical way. And I paused.
I saw steam.
and then I let the kid have it.
Did you ever?
I let him have it. Who do you think you are? You, who I've been a Christian longer than you've been alive, and you're walking up to 3 older brothers, 3 older men, who just spent the last 2 hours proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, and you come to me with your resume. What about Jeremiah's resume? Jeremiah? Yeah, he was one of God's prophets. Saw 2 people come to repentance and faith in over 40 years. Who have you? See, you're getting me all worked.
No, I'm not. It's coming out naturally. But this guy,
and I rebuked him. I pointed at his face and I said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. You are a hindrance to the gospel. You need to repent. You are a product of the modern American church. Go and tell your classmates what's going to happen to them when they die if they don't know Christ.
15-minute period.
Yeah, well, we don't have much time. I don't want to, but...
you chewed his head off starting at the temple and moved down past his nose.
He was, I believe the young man was unprepared for the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, anyways, but we got some encouragement, too.
But I'd like to say that often happens when you open air preach. You're very vulnerable. You've been preaching for 2 hours. You're exhausted. People come up to encourage you. And there's always a guy that will say, so, do you think you did any good? Jesus didn't do it like you do it. He wasn't hateful like you. I'm a Christian, and I think you're doing it wrong. And you're very vulnerable. You're exhausted. And they can cut right into the marrow of your bones, and you've got to be very careful. That's why, and you tend to remember those. 10 people can come and encourage you, and one of those just gets right in. So when I finished open air preaching in that situation, I've made a habit of leaving as quickly as I can because it's very normal for that to happen.
Well, and I was so caught up in the moment. The first thing I asked you and Eddie was, was I too hard on the kid? I mean, was I over the top? And both of you said, I liked it.
Hey, Tony.
Yes, sir.
One of the questions came in that's kind of apropos with what you guys are talking about right now, and is, did you approach the offices to get permission before you open air preached? Do you do that? Do you recommend doing that, or do you just go for it?
I think it's best to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. I think it's best to go for it, certainly on a public campus. If you're going to try to get onto a private school, a private university, you should check first. But the public campuses belong to the people, and so you have the right to free speech there. We have a nice situation at Cerritos College.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
incredible.
Yeah, I talked to the chief of police and let him know what we were doing, asked him if we needed any permits or anything like that, because one of the security guards, not one of the police officers, gave you a hard time one day.
He did, and I walked away believing everything he had said.
And so I called the chief of police the next day, and he said, you guys can do whatever you want. Just don't use amplification. If you want to preach, if you want to hand stuff out, engage people in conversation, videotape, you go right ahead. And so we have the blessing of the chief
Yes. And so a guy came up to me yesterday. He says, "Do you have permission to do this?" And I said, "Yeah, just go and talk to the chief of police." And it felt good to say that.
Yeah, but you know, some schools do have free speech areas, and there is some argument in the courts, some debate as to whether or not they can actually do that on a public campus. But I think the best thing to do is just go preach, go hand out tracts, and see what you run into. And if you run into problems, then that would be the time to go and check with the administration. If it's a big enough campus, if there is a police department, I would go there first. They're going to have the best understanding as to what the laws and regulations are. If you go before you go out there to share the gospel, you're going to run into some God hater who's going to say, "Oh, no, we don't allow any type of that here on the campus." And the likelihood is that's not true.
Yeah.
So.
And do it now, because the time may come where it's outlawed in this country, and you'll look back on these days and say, what a fool I was not to take advantage of that wonderful opportunity to reach a generation and have the liberty to do so.
You know, I sometimes, too, I think people want to go ask for permission first out of fear. They're hoping that someone is going to say you can't, so they're off the hook for doing it, right? And so just go do it. Just go do it. You know, speaking of encouragement, we got a word of encouragement, an email from a young lady named Andrea Crawford. She was out there at Cerritos College yesterday, and she took the time to write us, which was really neat.
Very
She
sweet.
said, "I was at Cerritos College today and listened to a couple of guys who were trying to get through to the college students. While I was listening, all I heard were people verbally attacking the men and mocking them and being downright disrespectful. I just wanted to thank them. I believe one of their names is Ray, and I'm not sure who the other guy was.
Tony.
I try to be a Christian. And I felt horrible when the students here were being so mean and nasty to them. I just sat and listened because I didn't know what to say. But I wanted to let your church know that there are people out here who really appreciate what they did today. It takes a lot of courage to get out there like that. I hope that one day I am able to defend Jesus' name like they did. God bless you again, and thank you." And so I emailed Andrea back and welcomed her to come out and join us anytime, and to make sure to come up and say hello next time. Love to meet her. So.
And you don't have to go head on with so-called intellectuals at universities. You just go and start with some trivia, give out some dollar bills or whatever, and then just go through the commandments and just let it happen. And if you can't answer someone's question, you say, "I can't answer that. I'll try my best. Come back another day." So be here when I come back with the answer to your question. So,
You know, in dealing with the open air, before you get up on the box, is there something specific that you guys pray before you get up on the box? Or do you just get up on the box unprayed because you're prayed up throughout the day? How do you guys handle that?
yeah, well, we usually have a saying that I've been using for years. Do you want to do this in the flesh, or you want God to help us?
That's right.
And that makes us pray, because the Bible says pray without ceasing and commit your way to the Lord. And it's a good thing to do, to acknowledge your own weakness and God's strength just before you do that. So if you've got knees knocking, fall on them. Oh, and when you pray in public, don't make it evident that you're praying in public. Don't raise your hands and, pray loudly. Just be very discreet, because you don't want to be like a Pharisee in the eyes of those to whom you're going to speak.
Yeah. One of the things I make a point to pray before open air preach is that the folks would forget who I am, that they wouldn't remember my name.
They did.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Answer to prayer. But no, seriously, that they would forget my name and they would remember the name of Christ. That the preaching would be such that they would be more taken by the gospel they hear than the one who's proclaiming it.
That's a good point.
I think only a fool would go out there without praying to do any kind of evangelism, certainly open air preaching.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe you're not ready to stand on a box on a college campus and take on 20-something-year-old folks who think they know everything.
Why not?
Okay, well, yes. Well, I was trying to segue into the next segment. But maybe you've got the courage to set up a table at your local mall. And Eddie Roman, the legend, and our producer here at Living Waters did just that with members from his church.
You're going to love this.
Yep.
All right, this is Eddie. I got raised behind the scenes camera, and it's Saturday, it's my day off, and today we are hanging out at the mall. My church cares a lot about evangelism, and so we have an evangelism outreach at our local mall. Our church has made the decision to set aside some of its budget for tracts. So what we do is we go to the local mall, we set up a table, and then some of our members, this here is Clint, he's one of the members of our church. He's actually been through the Ambassadors Academy, And what we do is we go out to the local mall, set out this table, and strike up conversations with people passing by. It's really easy to do. In fact, I think this is one of the easiest ways to get into evangelism conversations with people. People are curious, they come up to the table, they see what we got, we show them the tracts, we tell them everything's free, and it's really easy to get into conversations, and so that's what Clint's doing right now. So this is my friend Dojo. Dojo is on our evangelism team. Dojo has also been through the Ambassadors Academy. So Dojo, how does one go about getting a mall table to do evangelism like this?
Well, it's simply easy because basically every mall is required by law to have a public access table for anyone who wishes to utilize the mall as a venue to either promote something for as long as non-profit.
So if someone wants to see if they could set up a mall table in their city, what should they do?
They should just ask for where the administrator's office is and just inquire. And I bet they will be able to give them some information about where to set up the mall or what time. And usually they'll be very helpful in terms of what day you want to have the public access table and just set it up. Usually they give us every week access. Sometimes it's every other week, depends on the mall management.
All right, Dojo, thanks a lot.
Used to do something called pie.
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
Yeah.
In fact, that was the first time I ever did evangelism with you, and you were gracious enough to wait for us to drive 3 hours in rain and traffic to get down here. Yeah, you don't remember that, but I do. Pie was pizza, intercession, and evangelism.
Yes.
And you would go out to the mall to see how quick you can get kicked out.
That's right.
Right?
Yes, on Friday nights.
Did you ever do anything like this, set up a table?
Yes, we did. We did it locally. My wife and I did it. And we had some helpers from the ministry, and it was an absolutely wonderful time. We gave away hundreds of tracts in a 2-hour period. So it's a great opportunity. I don't know why I don't do it more often. We should. Yeah.
Mark, does the team at Kindred do anything like this? I know you do a lot of.
Well, I'll tell you, when we watched this video with Eddie and Virgil and Clint and Dojo out there hitting up the mall, Brad and I, we looked at each other and said, why are we not doing this on Friday nights? We need to have a team that goes out and does this. So we're going to do this. And
cool.
I recently read an article on Jack Chick's website where he said, what are the legal laws on being able to share your faith inside the mall? And he basically said, I'm not sure, but all the legal advice we have points to this. Shop, evangelize, shop, evangelize, shop, evangelize. And if you find yourself doing that, then the mall security are going to have a hard time trying to get you in trouble and making you move on.
That's right.
So when we don't have the booth set up, that's what we plan on doing, and that's what I encourage our people to do when we hit outdoor malls and we're just trying to hand out tracts or engage in one-on-one.
Boy, you go to 20 stores and buy the cheapest product and run around with 20 big bags in your hand, witnessing to people.
Starbucks cup in your hand,
yes.
half full. And
Mark wants, Mark.
So, Mark, should we go to the Q&A, or do we got more questions coming out of the chat room?
Okay, yeah, there is a question that's in here, and it is, how do you start off your conversations? It seems to be the hardest, hottest topic out there. Once I'm in the conversation, I don't have a problem, but making that initial approach on an individual is very difficult, people seem to say. Not even transitioning from the natural to the spiritual, but even the natural. How do you approach an individual? What do you do?
Well, why don't you get us started?
Okay, well, for me, it's with a gospel track. I don't actually know of a better way to do it outside of a gospel track. I've got the gospel track. I approach the individual and I say, hey, did you guys get one of these? It's a Christian gospel track. On the other side, you see a little message. It talks about Jesus Christ and heaven and things like that. Do you have any Christian background? And then I allow them to talk, and whatever they say, I tend to follow it up with a couple different questions. How do you know this to be true? Could you be wrong on this? What if you're wrong? And then I just kind of get into the conversation like that. But what do? I use a gospel track. I always have them with me, and I've said many times before, if you ever catch me in public without a track, Ray Comfort will give you $1,000.
That is very cool. Hey, we've got to remember, those who are watching this program from the United States, that we've got, in God we trust on our money, we're one nation under God. 87% of Americans want under God kept in the Pledge of Allegiance. So out there, it's not the radical, fire-eating, Christian-killing atheist that we think it is. It's just the average American who believes in God, prays every night, and they're not offended when you say this is a gospel tract. So just remember that, because your fears are very, really realized. I mean, I don't bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. Only once I've been hit with a coin to the forehead, which left an impression on my mind, but other than that, I don't have any scars.
Hey, before we check into the chat room again, I'd be remiss if we didn't handle this one
Remiss?
question.
Is that another
Remiss.
Spurgeon?
Yeah, you read the Puritans and the Reformers, and
You're
you
gonna
start to
get
talk
those
funny.
words.
Yeah. This is from Theophilus. It's his name.
I know, but I thought
It's his
I thought you were
name.
carrying on with the Spurgeon.
And he lives in Nottingham, England.
Yeah, I've been there, and the Sheriff of Nottingham's representative told me to stop open air preaching.
Really?
Yes,
Are
and
you
I
serious?
said, yeah, I'm
Was he wearing
serious.
tights?
No, he wasn't. He did swing down from a tree, though. No, he didn't. But it was a wonderful moment that I'll never forget. I says, "Who are you?" He says, "I represent the Sheriff of Nottingham." I says, "I've heard of him."
Well, Theophilus, living in Nottingham, is 17 years old. And he says, I live with my parents who pastor an unbiblical church, though my parents are not as affected. However, they are not biblical with evangelism, and the tracts that they have are not effective. I want to evangelize, but I have no choice but to use these tracts in the hope that when I give them to people, they will allow me to discuss with them the real gospel. I'm in need of tracts, but can't afford the $1 million tracts that are provided on your website. And because of that, I feel very limited whenever I go outside because I see the need for the gospel. And yet many times when I have just asked people if we could just have 5 minutes to discuss the gospel, they all say no, and so I'm very discouraged. Could you give me some advice as to what to do?
Yeah, two things. Number one is write to us, care of whatever address is here.
On the box at livingwaters.com.
And we'll send you some free tracts.
You got that, Theophilus? You already have our email address because you've emailed us once. I was hoping you would say that.
Of course.
I was hoping you would say that. We'll get you set up.
And secondly, I would change the approach, especially in England. You're not one nation under God. You're more conservative, more like New Zealand. And I wouldn't go up to someone and say, like, you give me 5 minutes to talk about the gospel. That seems too long. And besides, you've got to realize you're a police officer talking to criminals. So it's like a police officer walking up to a criminal and saying, hi, I'm a police officer. I'd like to talk to you about your crimes. And so they want to get away. They love the darkness. They hate the light. And so be more discreet in your approach. Study John chapter 4, where Jesus approached the woman at the well and spoke to her in the natural before he spoke to her in the spiritual. So I would just go up to someone that's sitting down, maybe outside if the weather's fine. I know if summer fell on a Wednesday last year in England. But if the weather's fine, someone's outside, go and sit beside them and say, hi, how you doing? And when they answer, I'm doing fine. So what, do you work around here, or what do you do for a living? And most people are prepared to talk. And once you've established that little bit of rapport and they realize you're not a crazy man, then you can say, hey, this is a gospel tract. Do you have a Christian background? Or what do you think happens when someone dies and you're away?
Yeah, and people do like to talk about their favorite subject, which is themselves. So if you start a conversation by showing interest in them, they're more likely to open up. Mark, anything you want to add to encourage Theophilus?
Our website also offers free downloadable tracks.
Yeah,
we've got the $1 Million Bill that you can download, and we have other tracks that are seasonal that you can download as well. So, never allow that to fall out of the realm. I know for myself, I was working at an old woman's consignment store, and I was there to just simply make enough money to purchase tracks. And I remember I was behind the counter there, and I said, God, I just want money to buy tracks. Every penny I make in here, I'm just going to be purchasing tracks. Please multiply these tracks. Little did I know what God had in store for me coming to now work over at a ministry where we use gospel tracts.
Yeah.
But just pray that God would open up doors. God has the money and he can provide all your needs that you have. And if that's a need that you have, I'm sure God will provide for it for sure.
And you can go to 100languages.com and download different $1 Million Bills for your own particular country, I think.
Well, go there and check out what you can do.
100languages.com.
Yeah. All right, so Theophilus, we do want to hear from you. Email us at onthebox@livingwaters.com so we can help you out, put some biblical tracts into your hand. Also, we did post an open air from yesterday at Cerritos College.
Theophilus is quite a nice name, really.
I like it.
Because it starts with Theo, which is God, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
philosophus.
carry on.
Anyways, an open air I did at Cerritos College is available at the Way of the Master YouTube channel. And then next week we're going to show a couple of segments with Ray where he answers a couple questions and has a really interesting encounter with a young man named Adam, who was from Adam. Yeah, no doubt. And
yesterday when we had these students, there's about 60 or 70 of them sitting on a bank. There was a guy named Adam, a guy named Thomas, a guy named Christian and a guy named Jesus, which is Jesus. So I was able to preach a sermon on their names. Yes, it was an interesting little encounter. I think we got it on film, so it's interesting.
No, we did.
We did?
Eddie got it. Yeah,
oh, that's
Eddie
funny.
got it. So, all right. Hey, we are way out of time. Ray will not be here tomorrow, so it'll be me and Mark answering your questions. Mark and I. Me and Mark. Mark and I. Which is it?
Mark and I.
Mark and I will be answering your questions tomorrow. Until then, be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. Proclaim the gospel.
You're full of it! Living Waters presents On the Box.